TYT debates back again. Excited to intro this one because I would not have known how to take either side of this because, unfortunately, where I come from, players have all the power, I'm afraid. But this poses a good question. Who should have the most power? Should it be players or should it be owners? So joined by Michael Shear, our guest. We're going to throw it to you so that you can decide, first and foremost, what side you would like to take.
Okay, so I'm gonna go first this time.
Yeah, you can just to decide what side you want to take.
The side I'm taking is owners.
So you can. Do you want to go first or do you want to take it?
No, I'd like to hear what.
That's why I just wanted
you
to.
I didn't realize I had to declare so early.
I just wanted you to declare what side you were voting.
I was just mesmerized by the way you said my name. So then now I'm snapping too, and in fact. I think that owners should have.
So that's a good. I wasn't expecting you with the first option to go with that.
I wasn't expecting that either.
So you're happy with players?
Always much easier going second than going first. But the players should have the power because without those players, there is no entertainment. There is nothing to watch. And those players are going to hike up prices. We did just debate a second ago. Probably not how we're going to space out these clips, but actually in studio on today a second ago. Money and athletes overpaid. But when it comes to the power of the team, I'm going to use LeBron James as an example. Some people criticize LeBron James, some publications specifically, criticize LeBron James for having too much power with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Yet when you are the best player on the planet, you should absolutely have all that power because if he did not prove last year that he can carry a team of scrubs to a championship, then why would you take away that power? With a coach that was plug and placed in for a very specific reason, and that reason obviously being not to get into LeBron James's way under an incompetent owner like Dan Gilbert. I always get the Gilbert-Snyder one confused. Gilbert is the Cavs, correct, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, Snyder is the Reds.
And Snyder's the worst person in the world. Not that Dan Gilbert's any better than him. But when you look at it, you have owners can be so incompetent, like those that sell their teams, that rip a franchise from Seattle, the Seattle Supersonics, where they lie, steal, and cheat from their own cities. Not every owner, but enough of them. Give them too much power, they treat these franchises like toys. They treat their employers not fairly and not correctly.
You're right about some owners, but you have to give some owners a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, too.
But that doesn't help.
Rooney
That
family
doesn't
in
help
Seattle.
my
It doesn't
argument.
help you, but that's why they brought me in today.
Right.
And the whole notion, yes, you can coddle a player, as your example says about LeBron James. You can bring in a coach that would not get in his way. You can pay him a ton of money, as they did with LeBron James, but you own the franchise. You took the risk, you have the asset, you pay the staff, and whether it was a company that made plastic covers for iPhone cases, you own that company, you employ those people. If those people leave and the quality of your product goes down, no, you appreciate them and you pay them well. That's why you don't pay them poorly, because then they'll leave and they'll go elsewhere, and then you have an inferior product, right? It's the same thing with the owners. They're the employers. They own these teams. Some of them are bad apples. Some of them are horrible apples. Dan Snyder's one you brought up. I don't know Dan Gilbert well enough, but a lot of them are great, and they're great for the community, and they're very charitable, and they're also out for themselves. They're wealthy men who want to make a lot of money, and women in some cases, and want to take their franchises to the bank, which is what they do. But they have the power because they're paying these people. They're providing opportunities for a wealth of people every single Sunday if it's football, and every single day practically if it's baseball. It's the same thing, So I think that you have to give deference to someone. These players don't have a job and they don't have a forum without the owners, right? Without the owners that make up the leagues.
And these owners don't have any entertainment value without the players.
And they don't have any, but they certainly have the value of their money, and they can do that elsewhere. So, and it pains me to say, because this isn't a situation where I think that players, every single player is exploited by every single owner. These players, as we have discussed in the past, get paid pretty damn well. Some people even think that they're overpaid for some crazy reason. But the point is that they are, and it's an easily articulable argument, that they are employees at the end of the day. Even if they're LeBron James, they work for the Gilbert family.
So you're reporting to your boss. It's a very good argument. The one thing I do want to point out was, speaking of owners in baseball, at least, Miami Marlins owner Jeff Loria. I know you're a Marlins fan. Do you know how you pay for parking at Marlins Stadium?
Tell me how you pay for parking.
You throw change into his mouth.
Well, yeah, right. I took a cab.
So out of your argument to decide who was worse, or basically who should have power between players of owners, and you chose some bad owners. You never even brought up Donald Sterling. You could have just mentioned straight away that when given enough power, you can near enough destroy.
It's another person, again, that's why, but
Michael, he was a little different, and I'll tell you why.
He didn't treat his employees like that of other owners.
Yeah, I mean, I think that his infractions were not about the fact that he was an owner. It was about the fact that he's a wealthy, powerful, odious guy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because they were personality defects more than just the defects within the construct of owner versus player.
Yeah,
So,
but when you're given the power, do those personality defects not allowed to thrive more, where he thought that he could treat them as entities?
unquestionably, but I think he's probably anomalous. I mean, we wouldn't know. There are other. Listen, they're bad apples. There are hundreds of.
I agree.
By the way, I have an ongoing list here. I wish I had a pen, but we have odious, anomalous. Any other vocabulary words
I know,
to look up and study later today?
I'm sorry.
There was a
being educated.
Pound.
There was a
Singular.
verb. There was a verb earlier.
Yeah, give me 10 minutes and I'll think of one.
So I guess I want to go back. Actually, this isn't over. This isn't over. I want to hear more from both sides on the question I want to know the most about is we're talking about power here. So if the owners have more power, does that not limit the player's freedom to go wherever he wants? Because in American sports, it's
I know that's the
hard to
argument
move.
for world football. The argument is that the players are in control, and I believe
Not always so, but they have the ability to, if they want to move somewhere, they have the ability to move because they're represented by agents and they're represented by.
Same as here, but there's no salary cap to prevent that move from happening.
Yeah. And also that was a huge problem actually, and you're right, but it was corrected. With free agency. Because there was a time where you were bound, you're drafted, you're bound, that's all, the owners had all the power. That was too much. I mean, that was like owning a person. Here you own their services for a little while, and just like in any business, or any business that has contracted employees, they're beholden to you for that finite period of time. They can also ask to be let out of their contract, which happens. They can ask to be traded. There's a greater amount of movement now than there was before.
Or you have players like Josh Smith when he played for the Detroit Pistons, where they will pay you to not show up to work ever again.
Is that right? Yeah.
They bought out his contract. He was the Detroit
And it
Pistons,
took a little bit of the purity and enjoyment out of the game too, because before you knew about the money. Every summer, the Yankees would field, virtually the same 8 men in the field. I mean, it would change a little bit, maybe one guy.
They would just play one position down?
But what I mean is that they would. Well, the pitchers, they're different every day. But the whole idea of that was gone with free agency because your favorite players would move on to greener pastures. They only have a certain amount of time in which they can earn this much money. So all the power to them to go away, and that's where they did get some of that power. So it's a good critique, but I think it was corrected a lot here, and it's just a little different than it is there because, like Jason said, there are these salary caps, but there's also somewhat more of a freedom to move for these players.
Yeah, well, even if the owners had somewhat more control over players in world football, in my stance is that players most teams are required to have minimum buyout clauses, especially in bigger leagues like La Liga, where if players still have the ultimate control, you can't go, all right, I'm going to give you 120 million for Lionel Messi, and he has to go. Like, he's still under contract, and he has every right to stay there. So it works both ways. Players can refuse to move, even if the team wants to move them on. There's a player who played for a lower level English team who, when they signed him, were doing great. They signed him for $60,000 or £16,000 a week. He was killing it, and the team were doing well. They got relegated. He didn't take a pay cut. He's like, I'm under contract, I'm just going to stay, so he still has the power. For
debate purposes, this has become as like, which side are you taking? But in terms of like the balance of power, we have seen, real quick, it's important to mention what just happened with Dez Bryant, Cowboys wide receiver, and Demayrious Thomas, Broncos wide receiver. In terms of holding out, Dez Bryant got to the point where he said he would not play football. He would not take the money. He was going to be putting about $10 million on the shelf to not play if he didn't get his deal. NFL has the franchise tag, which basically is you get paid for that year even if you get injured, but you're not guaranteed to be re-signed to a contract extension. You don't get your big payday.
Yeah.
So Dez Bryant held out until he got the amount of money that he felt was right, which kind of swung the balance of power
but that's what happens. That's what negotiating is.
Right.
Even in power or no power, everybody negotiates.
Is it wrong to say this is just business?
It's not, because it is business. It's business until the game starts. It's all business. That's how it works. But that's fine. I mean, it's just that's.
So even with the argument, though,
you bemoan it, which is it's too bad that.
Any Wall Street quotes that can sneak into this?
No, I didn't see.
You left the Wall Street manual at home.
I did.
Picked up the dictionary instead.
It's all about pecuniary responsibility.
The one man.
Jason, spell it.
Is that all right?
Pecuniary. P-U-C.
That was worth it. Pecuniary, Pecuniary.
Nice. So,
To pecune?
Having to do with money.
so I guess the final point I want to make on it is, do you think that no matter what, whether you're arguing the case that power should be perhaps within the owners of the players, do you not agree that no matter what, like, players will ultimately have the last decision? If they do not want to play for a franchise, they just don't play for them?
I think some players will have that, but there's also a decision time. You saw it with this DeAndre Jordan guy with the Clippers.
Yeah.
You saw it with LeBron James when he went to the Miami Heat. I'm making a couple of NBA references, surprising even me. But you see that happen. So when it gets time where they can negotiate, like anyone else in business, they can say, hey, listen, I want to tell me what you're going to pay me, tell me what you're going to pay me, tell me where I can live and who I can travel and who the coach is going to be. They get to a point where they do have some power. But ultimately, the people who write the checks end up having the power because they could say no and move on.
Or not write your check.
Or not write your check. Well, yeah, they can't do that by law. But.
All right, well, we want to know what the commentators think. Do you agree, perhaps, that power should be more so with the players or with the owners? Let us know in the comment section below. From Michael, Jason, and Francis, thanks again, and subscribe to TYT Sports and brush up on your vocabulary and spell